Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, I've got a really great guy. He is called the Family Law Guy. His name is Daniel Ryan. So welcome, Daniel.
And good afternoon, Lyn. How are you? Lovely to have you. And thanks for sharing with me and letting me come on board.
It's my pleasure. And we're going to be talking about quite a tricky topic. I've been through it myself. Twice, but one with a guy that I wasn't actually married to, so it's not so tricky then, and I didn't have children with that partner, so again it wasn't so tricky. But we're going to be talking about two tribes go to war in terms of, are you at the point where you're at each other's throats, thinking about separation, actually talking about divorce? So first and foremost, you're the point of I suppose contact in that sort of situation, aren't you, Daniel?
I'm afraid I am. They come to me that parties arrive at my door when they've tried their best to be reasonable. They've tried their best to work it out, or not, and then all they're looking for is a fight, and they want somebody to have that fight for them. So people do regard me as quite gladiatorial in that I just need someone who's going to come and go into the court and beat up the other side, and then what I try and do is sort of talk them back off that position and bring them back from that position and try and get them to a place where they're perhaps a bit more reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel that, all that happens if you're at that point is the children get caught in the crossfire, don't they?
They do. Yeah, they do indeed. Particularly if there are children involved, then I'm very, very sort of passionate about children and about ensuring that they're not damaged, or the damage is limited where children are ended up in broken relationships, because they're going to carry the burden of that for the rest of their lives. And so we are quite harsh in some respects with some of the clients who come through our door, where we explain to them that, look, the approach you're currently taking is perhaps not the most appropriate one, and you're not really thinking about your children. I appreciate your upset. I appreciate the vitriol towards the other side, but in the middle of this are some children who didn't ask to be here.
Absolutely. And I suppose it can be quite tricky to sort of mediate, because do you ever hear, both sides of the argument, so to speak? Because I'm assuming in most cases you just, trusting that the party that you're dealing with is being upfront, but it's only from their perspective, isn't it?
Yes, usually, probably a large percentage of the time. Obviously, I've only got one side of the story until we get into court, and then I get, perhaps both sides of the stories. But we do have occasions where I listen to a client when they come to see me for the first time, and I think, hang on a minute, we've probably got an opportunity here for me to listen to both sides and maybe mediate a little before we start unpacking the guns. Maybe we've got an opportunity to just see whether we can explore some common territory. So we do that on occasions, and and to be fair, it works fairly well. At least we can narrow the issues of what we're going to ultimately go to battle about.
So have you mainly got a consistent theme that seems to come up as to the reasons why people want to separate and go down the divorce path?
There are a number of themes or subject areas that come up time and time again in all the years that I've been doing this, and infidelity is obviously a huge one. He went somewhere else, she went somewhere else, and money is a huge driver for why people split up these days, because they haven't, that money just drives a huge wedge between them. But the issue that I'm finding more often than not, when you sort of peel away like an onion, if you peel away the layers of he did that, she did that, he did that, she did that, what I'm finding is people are actually just becoming more disposable in their relationships. That they are sort of regarding people as, well, I'm bored with you now. And so I'm going to change you in the same way as I might change my outfit or change my car. And there is a degree of that. There is a degree of disposability about relationships. And I don't know if you find that, Lyn, in your work, but in mine, it's very much people are disposable. I'm bored. I'm going to change you for something else.
It's very sad to hear. Yeah, I do find it a lot in my niche as a coach, but you know, I was with my ex-husband for 23 years, and that just literally, you know, I suppose we were on different paths. We just grew apart. And then I was in another long-term relationship for 10 years. So I don't know what you find the average time period is now before people decide that, you know, the relationship is disposable. Is that it's getting shorter in terms of the number of years people decide to give a relationship?
It is getting shorter. I mean, if we look at marriages, you know, the court has a terminology about short and medium and long-term marriages, and it regards a marriage of 12 years, which, to be perfectly honest, is not a particularly long time, but it regards a marriage of 12 years as being a long marriage now. The average marriage in this country, in court terms, tends to end within 5 to 8 years.
Wow, so I suppose there's a thing to that term, the 7-year itch, then, isn't there?
Well, yeah, there's something very true about the 7-year itch, and I mean, you know, that's been true for for years, well, since the movie, and it continues to be. It is very much so. People start to get, you know, bored. They start to get bored, you know. They unfortunately then they start to do, and again, I'm sure you talk about this with your clients, but they start to do all those things that we try and do to fix things. Let's have another child. Let's buy a bigger house. And all they end up doing is piling the pressure on.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help the relationship. You know?
No, they're looking without rather than within, aren't they?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You know, what can I bolt on to this to make this better? And inevitably they end up with me and we have to break it all apart.
It's so sad to hear that, you know, that's the situation these days. But on the other hand, you know, my thoughts have changed quite a bit in regards to marriage, because I'm thinking, you know, are we putting too much pressure on ourselves, or did we put too much pressure on ourselves to make marriages work long term? You know, because obviously previously women weren't that independent sort of 50, 60 years ago, so they were staying in relationships, and probably, you know, quite unhealthy toxic relationships, because they hadn't got the means to end that relationship and work on themselves and perhaps find, you know, a new relationship that's a better fit for them. So I've been thinking to myself, you know, at the end of the day, we don't force ourselves to stay in friendships, you know, that are no longer aligned with our own trajectory. So why do, I suppose, we put pressure on ourselves to stay in marriages? And I know that obviously we've got children involved, but sometimes, you know, two parents that aren't happy around kids isn't necessarily the best environment either, is it?
No, absolutely not. And I think you're right. I think we do. I think tradition drives us to try and make a marriage work. And you know, and that's up to a point. That's a good thing to do. We should stick at it a bit and try and make a bit of effort. And you know, if we can fix the holes, fix the holes. But there comes a point where children are sponges, and children are very aware of the environment that they're in. And they are very aware of toxicity, and they're very aware of the fact that mum and dad, frankly, don't like each other. And when you get to that situation, then the best thing you can do for those children is not stay together. That phrase that I've heard, you know, 1,000 times over the years, let's stay together for the sake of the children, is absolutely the worst advice in the world. You know, let's not stay together for the children. Let's break apart. Let's get ourselves to a place where we have two healthy, happy environments that we can have these children in, not one toxic battlefield that these children are having to suffer every day.
Very, very wise words, I feel. And I feel as well, you know, that more could be probably done, because there are people like myself that can educate, you know, whatever age group really, around how to have healthy relationships. I'm lucky that both my relationships were healthy relationships. They were, as I say, they just, you know, it was just a case of grew apart because we wanted different things out of life. So, but It wasn't because there was unhealthy or toxic relationships, but I did experience that before met my ex-husband, toxic type relationships. So I am aware of what a toxic relationship is and have experienced that. So I'm just wondering, should there be more education in schools about how to have healthy relationships and what it means to have healthy relationships? Because quite often we haven't got great role models within our family homes, have we?
No, that's very true, and I think you're right. I think there should definitely be more. I think we should take some steps back in terms of education and put some of the basics back in about how to teach children about relationships. Because the relationship you see at home may not be the best. You may be in a relationship where mum and dad are incredibly toxic and unpleasant towards each other. You may be in a single parent relationship. Which again, you need somebody to sort of explain to you what a full-blown wholesome relationship can look like. And so I think it's very valid for children to get some sort of education, because we have, all children are getting at the moment, and this is just my view, but all children are getting at the moment is these rather distorted views of social media and of influencers on social media that says, all you've got to do is get through your childhood, and then you're just going to be incredibly successful because all the influencers are, and you're going to have more money than you know what to do with, and you're going to live this wonderful sort of fairy tale life. But unfortunately, that is less than 1% of the planet. And the rest of us have got very normal lives, and somebody needs to educate them as to what a normal life looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, quite often we don't know what that is, because I know for me, my parents would absolutely admit this if they were, unfortunately both of them are passed away now, but they would, I'm sure, have admitted that we weren't the best role models. It was a very toxic environment, very volatile. And, when you're a child in that, you think that's normal, don't you?
No, that's true. That's true. It's about, one of the phrases that I use time and time again in family law is lived experience. It's the children's lived experience. And if you're in an environment where mum and dad are going at each other, hammer and nail, cat and dog, day in and day out, you assume that's the norm, and you assume that's acceptable, and you then take that into your own relationship when you're an adult. And because I've been doing this for so long, I am on second and third generation clients where I think, oh yeah, I did your mum's divorce. Here I am doing yours.
Yeah, there's a repeat pattern, because you either learn and think, I'm never going to be like my mum, or I'm never going to be like my dad, or I'm never going to be like my parents, and you want to do things totally differently, or you repeat the cycle, don't you?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, in my experience, and perhaps it's just because people come to me when it's a battle. In my experience, there's more repeating of the cycle than there is of breaking away from it and taking the healthy option that says, I've seen that. I really don't think that's how I should be walking through life. So I'm going to take a different path. Unfortunately, everybody I see, just through the nature of what I am, are repeating the cycle of abuse and toxicity and ruining their kids. And, that's the nature of the beast that I'm in, I'm afraid.
So is part of your role is it to ever recommend, if you feel, it would benefit children involved and the parents involved, to recommend therapy or coaching or counselling or anything like that?
It is, yeah. We're very proactive with our clients. We could take a very simple and very quite a narrow remit if we wanted to, of just dealing with, let's just deal with the law aspect. Let's get you divorced, or let's get you custody of the kids. Then you can go and leave our door and get on with your life. But I take a much wider brief than that, because I think, no, my role is bigger than that. My role is to actually give these people some access to resources and to ideas that will allow them to find where wholesome is in their life again. Because currently they're in a very black place when they come to me. Life looks pretty awful. The children are unhappy, they're unhappy, the former partner is unhappy, everybody's unhappy. And it's about giving them the opportunity to re-educate, realign, and get back on a path that gets back to a place where they can feel happy about themselves. So we do talk to people about therapy. We do recommend therapy, both for parents and indeed for children. And I say, we work with parents. I've got a therapy team, a counselling team within my business, and we refer those across. And we try and be a bit more proactive than just let me just tell you what your legal rights are.
Yeah, that's great. I love to, hear that you're offering a more holistic approach rather than let's just take you down the law route and get you what you want, and sometimes I suppose you have to limit somebody's expectations of what they think they're entitled to, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. Everybody walks in, dare I say, everybody walks into me and says, I want the house, I want the money, I want the children. Okay, what is the other partner going to have? Nothing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's great. That's great. And one of the conversations, again, that I have over and over and over again is just take a minute and take a step back, take a breath and think, at some point, you two human beings adored each other and you loved each other and you came together to form a life. And so something went wrong along the way, and that's just the nature of the beast. But don't lose sight of that at some point, you really did love each other. And out of that came these children who didn't ask to be here, but they are here now. So, you have a responsibility to do what is right by your children, regardless of what you want. And so if that means, that you've got to negotiate in respect of the house, negotiate in respect of the bank accounts, negotiate in respect of who owns the telly, then that's where we are. Because, we've got children in the middle, and both of you, regardless, mum and dad, regardless of how we arrived here, you are both absolutely entitled to walk away from this and still have a life.
Yeah.
My remit is not to destroy one of you.
And that, as much as what they'd probably like to do at that point.
Well, they'd love to. I've got lots of clients come to me and say, I just want you to destroy them. And invariably, that's a very short conversation, because I will say, well, one, we're not going to do that. That is not something I have ever done in all the years I've been in practice, and we're not starting now. So if you want that, and there are legal practices who will do that for you, go and find them. It's not here. But if you want to rethink and let's explore perhaps something a little more positive, a little more equitable, then take a seat and we'll have a chat.
I love that, because like you say, there are some ruthless lawyers out there, aren't there?
There are the legal profession, like everything else. The legal profession is a business. I run a business. When all said and done, I run a commercial enterprise here where we make money. That's otherwise I couldn't afford to do what we do, and it involved the staff that we involve. So yeah, unfortunately, it is a commercial business. And one of the issues that I have with the family court, well, with every court, but the family court, because obviously that's where I focus, is aside from the pursuit of justice, first and foremost, it is a commercial environment. People who are in there are being paid. I'm being paid when I'm in there. Whoever is battling for the other side is being paid. The judge is being paid. Everybody is being paid.
Yeah.
And that is an underlying theme. So justice has a price.
Absolutely. And also, I suppose it's nice to hear that has it always been your, part of your mission and vision for your firm to be seen as somebody that's taking a more balanced approach and, focusing more on what's best for the kids as well as the individuals involved, rather than, cut and dried, more conveyor belt type situation where clients are concerned?
No, very much so. We've always been, our ethos from the day we started this was, we will work in the best interest of the children. Because I had a great childhood. I had a fantastic childhood. My daughter's 25 now, but my daughter had a fantastic childhood. And there's no reason why, in fact, no, I'll go further than that. Every child has an absolute right to a fantastic childhood. And they can't all have it. So my remit and my ethos in setting this practice up and running it for all the years I have has never deviated from, we will pursue the best interests of the child. We will always pursue the best interests of the child. And that is working with parents, sometimes mum, sometimes dad, sometimes both, where we pursue those best interests. And that means the client who comes through my door that says, I've got this issue, I need to deal with it in family court, but frankly, I've got no money. and we will deal with those. We will still deal with those individuals. 25%. Currently 25%, it deviates between 25 and 30, but 25% of my client base don't pay us a single penny. We work for them absolutely for free because it's just the right thing for us to do, because they're in a set of circumstances that we need to assist them with. So that's something that we've always done, something we will always do, over and above whatever we do with the various charities that we're aligned with, etc., etc. But no, looking after the children, that's what we do.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love to hear people talk like that, that are involved in an industry where quite often it's, perceived that it's just a license to print money.
Yeah, no, very much. I make no secret of the fact the legal profession is a license to print money. You don't see poor solicitors, you don't see poor barristers. So it is a license to print money. But I have to find some balance, and that's probably about my own moral compass, that I have to find some balance. To really sort of justify to myself why it is that we charge the fees we charge. And that is about, by doing that, we can do this. So we can look after these people who are very vulnerable. We can work with domestic abuse victims. We can work with children in impoverished situations. We can do other stuff. So that's how I sort of justify to myself what we do. Yeah.
There's a social enterprise element.
Very much so. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, Lyn. There is. Yeah, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to do our bit.
Great. I love to hear that. So, for you, Daniel, what actually sort of, I suppose, initially got you interested in law? Were you always involved in family law? Is that always something you wanted to do?
No, not at all. Not at all. I started in industry, actually. Years and many years ago. I started in industry and potted around in industry. Worked in various industry sectors, like the transport business and the logistics business and the health and safety business and bizarrely the hairdressing business. So I've done lots of things along the way. And then I stumbled into this. Without a plan, without a design, nearly 20 years ago now. And I just thought, well, actually, this is something where we can assist some people. And it's kind of grown from there, again, with absolutely no plan. I have no plan as to what we're going to do, what we're going to do next. We just potter along, and clients keep coming knocking on our door, and we keep taking them on, and I keep finding new staff, and we keep taking them on, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. But we all maintain this ethos, and that's, as long as we maintain the ethos, I'm kind of okay with the lack of plan.
That's great. I love that because quite often, especially, I suppose, dare I say, men in general are more the planners, aren't they, in relationships? They are more autonomous usually. They are the doers, the protectors, the providers. If you're going to go down the stereotypical gender role, which is usually, quite correct in most relationships. But it's interesting that you say that you don't have a plan, because that's quite often a more intuitive, feminine way of doing things.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. No, there's absolutely no plan. We just potter along, and unfortunately, I'm a workaholic. I say that unfortunately, but I am a workaholic. So I thoroughly enjoy what we do. I love what we do. And I was having a conversation a couple of years ago with my accountant, who said, well, what's the exit strategy? We need an exit strategy. What are we going to do? And I said, well, the exit strategy is that one day I will die. That's kind of it. There's nothing more cleverer than that. It's just, I will just do this until the day that I don't do this.
Wow. Well, you really must love your work then.
I do. I love what we do.
Yeah. So are you in a marriage or partnership yourself at the moment?
No. I'm the downside of workaholic. I am single.
All right. I just wanted to ask that, because I'm thinking, if you are that, then how do you sort of maintain, a work-life balance in terms of your other side of your life? But obviously there isn't that other side of your life you need to focus on at the moment.
No, that's true, and it hasn't been for years and years and years, to be perfectly honest. So, because I am a workaholic, and I kind of accepted over the years that this is what I am. and so there's little point in sort of doing anything else really. So I when I say I'm a workaholic, I work 7 days a week, day in and day out. Most of my days are 16 hours long. I love what we do. I love what we can, how we help people. And this gives me all the reward that I need. And maybe at some point, one of these days, I might wake up and think, oh my word, I'm quite lonely. But it's not today. So
that's great to hear that you're so fulfilled within your work, that it's become your passion and your purpose, I suppose.
Very much so. Yeah, no, very much so. Very much so.
And you don't feel the need, I suppose, to have an external relationship outside of it. So no, I think that's great. And it sounds like you get a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment from what you do. So why not?
Indeed, yeah, indeed, and and I have, I have lots of stuff that I sort of take myself off to do from time to time, just to sort of break away from the desk. I'm a big theatre fan. I'm a big ballet fan. I love going out to dinner. So I have lots of friends that I'll sort of, are you free for dinner? I'm off to the theatre. Do you want to come? And that works perfectly well for me. That works perfectly well.
That's great. So you do have a social life then?
From time to time, yes. From time to time, I say, because I do love the theatre and I love ballet, so I do treat myself so many times a year. There's this sort of, it's time to book some tickets and go and watch something at the theatre. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad it's not all work, no play.
Yeah, no, not all work, not far off, but not all work. Yeah.
So for anybody that's listening to our conversation, Daniel, and would like to get connected with you because they're in a sort of dilemma regarding the future of their current relationship, what's the best contact information?
The easiest way to find me is if you go onto either TikTok or YouTube and type in "that family law guy." I will pop up. My contact details are on there, which is just much easier for the purposes of your podcast, Sue. So that family law guy on YouTube or on TikTok, and you will find me.
Excellent. I'm glad I found a fellow TikToker. That's of a certain age. I enjoy TikTok too. I'm not very active as a content creator, but I do like the entertainment it provides.
I say thanks. I'm terrible because I don't look at it very often. My social media manager, who's in the business, just comes to find me every sort of couple of times a week and says, right, I need an hour of your time. We need to record this, and this. And then I'll sit and I'll generate stuff, and then she goes off and processes it and does whatever they do on that side of the building, and it appears on screen. So excellent.
Well, as I say, I think it is a good way of, if you are consistent with it, it is a good way of getting your contents out there these days, especially with people being more inclined to watch digital platforms, aren't they?
Very much, yeah, no, very much so. So we offer a lot of little sound bites of free advice on all elements of family law and all elements of relationship breakdown and child custody and dealing with domestic abuse and such like and so forth. So yeah, and whilst I may not entirely agree with the soundbite culture that we find ourselves in, but if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, we have to put our hands up to some things that we don't necessarily agree with or like, but we all have to progress and move with the times, don't we?
That is very true, we do. And if that's how people want it, then that is how we have to give it to them.
Absolutely. So any final tips or advice or words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience before we close the podcast around two tribes going to war?
I think the advice I give everybody day in and day out is fighting. All you're going to achieve with fighting is you're going to spend money with people like me. You're going to bring undue stress and anxiety upon yourself, and you're going to damage your children. That is all you are going to achieve. Because the end result, whatever that may be, the division of the assets, how it is the children spend their time between you and the other parent, will be the same, whether you fight your way to that destination or whether you actually work your way through to it in a negotiated, reasonable way. The outcome will be the same.
I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think the more flexible you can be and accommodating you can be, the more you achieve ultimately.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for that, Daniel. I really enjoyed that conversation, and love to invite you, to do another episode with you at some point in the future.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. There's a wealth of topics that we can cover in the world of finding your way through family court. So yes, no, we'd love to do that soon.
Excellent. So thank you, Daniel Ryan, the family law guy, for talking about what happens when two tribes go to war around the subject of separation and divorce. And it just leaves me to say that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group To HEARTS Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.